Look at the last thing you bought. The rice, the paracetamol, the charger in your pocket. Before it reached your hand, at least 6 different people were paid. Not one of their names was on your receipt. You paid every single one of them, and you never knew who they were. In February 2025, one more name joined that list. Customs announced a new charge, 4% of the value of everything entering this country. Traders shouted, it was suspended. In August, it came back. In September, it was suspended again. Then mostly it reappeared quietly inside a government revenue plan, worth 1.26 trillion naira. Something that gets killed twice does not usually come back to life, unless somebody powerful needs it alive. So we went looking for the room where that decision actually lives. It is not in Abuja. It is behind a fence in Lagos, and almost no Nigerian is allowed inside.
Power is never given. It is taken, hidden, and controlled. This is historic capital.
It is the 3rd of August, 2026, and I am on the road. Today we follow one container from the water to your table, and we name every hand that touches it. Whew, thank you for being here. This file stays open because of you. Nearly everything Nigeria does not make must come in by sea. The wheat in your bread, the fish, the milk, the tires. More than 7 out of every 10 medicines sold in this country were manufactured somewhere else. All of it enters through a small number of gates on one coastline. Here is the part nobody says out loud. Those gates are not run by Nigeria. They are leased. And the papers that lease them are not only written in Abuja. Some of them lead to Copenhagen, to Geneva, to Beijing, to Singapore. A ship reaches Lagos. Inside it, one 40-foot container of your goods. The ship cannot simply park. It pays to enter the channel. It pays for a pilot to guide it in. It pays for the water it sits on. Before one carton touches Nigerian soil, the meter is already running. And it is running in dollars. Then the box comes down and the real bill starts. Terminal handling, documentation, storage, examination, delivery. Years ago, the Nigerian Shippers Council tried to clean this up. They wanted to squeeze all the charges into 5 simple ones. Before I tell you how many they found, guess. Guess the number in your head right now. 34. 34 separate categories of charge sitting on one box. Then customs takes its turn. Import duty on the value-added tax on top of that, a 7% surcharge that helps fund the Ports Authority itself, a 1% inspection fee, and then from 2025, the fight over the extra 4%. A car dealer in Lagos explained it in plain language. On a vehicle worth 12.5 million naira, the old 1% fee came to 125,000. The new 4% made it 500,000. Same car, same port, same country. Only the paper changed. And if the container sits too long, demurrage begins. In Nigeria, a 40-foot box can run around 68,500 naira every single day. In Lomé, in Togo, storage is roughly $20 to $30 a day. Same ocean, same week. Very different bill. Every one of those charges ends up inside the price you pay in the market. But a charge needs somebody standing there to collect it. So I asked a simple question. Who is standing at that gate? The answer is written in a set of documents most Nigerians have never seen. In 2005 and 2006, the federal government carved 6 port complexes: Lagos, Tincan Island, Port Harcourt, Onne, Warri, and Calabar into 26 terminals. Each terminal was then leased to a private company. The Nigerian Ports Authority signed as the landlord. The Bureau of Public Enterprises signed as the confirming party. The leases ran from 10 to 25 years. That is the moment the state stopped touching your cargo. So when people say government is stealing at the ports, hold on. Government stopped handling the boxes 20 years ago. Government became a landlord. Apapa Container Terminal went to AP Mola, APM Terminals, handed over in March 2006 for 25 years. Other Apapa terminals went to Apapa Bulk Terminal, to ENL Consortium, to Greenview. At Tincan Island, Joseph Dam. Ports and cargo. Tincan Island Container Terminal. The roll-on, roll-off terminal went to 5-Star Logistics. Now here is where it gets interesting. Why were the biggest gates all sitting in one city? For that, we have to go back much further than 2006. In 1913, the colonial administration decided to build deep water berths at Apapa. Not because Apapa was the best harbor in Nigeria, because Apapa was chosen as the terminus of the Western Railway. The railway was built to move palm oil, cocoa, groundnut, cotton, and tin out of the country. The same year, Port Harcourt was opened for the coal at Enugu. Understand what that means. Nigeria's main gates were never designed to bring goods in. They were designed to take raw materials out. When independence came, the flags changed. The direction of the ships changed. The gate did not. Then came 1975. The government ordered cement on a scale nobody had planned for, far beyond what every Nigerian port could discharge in a year. Hundreds of ships queued off Lagos for months. Cargo rotted at sea. Demurrage was paid every day to foreign ship owners for ships that were doing nothing. And the official solution to Lagos congestion was to build another port in Lagos. Tincan Island, commissioned in October 1977. New Warri and New Calabar came 2 years later and then quietly went to sleep. 50 years later, we are still having the same argument. But this time I could see the numbers. And the numbers were worse than I expected. Nigeria has a coastline running from Lagos all the way to the Cross River. It has 6 major port complexes spread across 4 states. On paper, that is a national network. Now guess again. Out of everything Nigeria bought and sold with the world in the first 3 months of 2025, what share passed through Apapa alone? Take your guess. 71.6%. One port. Nearly 26 trillion naira of trade in 3 months. And on exports, it was even sharper. 86% left the country through that single gate. Tincan Island, the second busiest, handled under 10%. Meanwhile, Calabar, Nigeria's oldest deep-water gateway. In 2024, the port manager confirmed something almost hard to say out loud. Not one container vessel had docked there in 25 years. 25 years. So I put the honest question to the evidence. Was this geography, economics, policy, or power? There is a serious case for geography and economics. Lagos has the deeper water. Lagos has the factories, the banks, the warehouses, the buyers. Shipping lines send big ships where the cargo is, and the cargo is where the people are. Warri and Calabar sit behind shallow channels that need constant dredging. On that reading, nobody engineered this. Trade simply went where trade already was. But policy left fingerprints too. The rail terminus decision in 1913 chose Lagos before anybody measured demand. The response to the 1975 crisis added capacity in Lagos. The country's first deep sea port, Lekki, was also built in Lagos. And in late 2025, when the government approved about $1 billion to modernize Nigeria's ports, the first money went to Apapa and Tincan Island. Procurement for Warri, Port Harcourt, Onne, and Calabar came after. Even government's own advisors now put it plainly. The eastern ports stayed underused because of policy neglect, weak road and rail links, and inconsistent investment. That is not a conspiracy. That is a choice, repeated for 100 years by different men in different uniforms. And concentration is not free. Ask the trucker. On the Apapa corridor, drivers describe more than 17 checkpoints. On the Tincan Road, 16 or 17 more. There is an electronic booking system, ETO, brought in through a 2021 agreement to end the chaos. Truckers say the slot that should be scheduled is instead sold. One clearing agents group put the arithmetic on record. About 21,000 naira per truck per trip. More than 120 billion naira in 5 years. The gridlock came back anyway. Moving one container from Lagos to a warehouse in the north or the east can cost close to 1 million naira. So the trader in Onitsha, the manufacturer in Nnewi, the chemist in Aba, the miller in Kano, All of them pay a Lagos tax that nobody ever calls a tax. They pay it in distance, in diesel, in bribes, in spoiled goods, in weeks of waiting. If you have paid that tax, tell me in the comments. Which road? Which checkpoint? How much? I read them. So we had the cost. We had the concentration. What we still did not have was the shareholders. And that is where this stopped being a Nigerian story. Start with the container terminal at Tincan Island. It is run by a company called Tincan Island Container Terminal. Its own filings describe two major shareholders. One is the French logistics group Bolloré. The other is an entity called Strong Best Investment, which is China Merchants Port together with the China Africa Development Fund. China Merchants sits under the direct supervision of the Chinese State's Asset Commission. Then, at the end of 2022, something changed that most Nigerians never heard about. Bolloré sold its entire African ports and logistics business in a deal valued at around $6 billion to MSC, the Mediterranean Shipping Company. MSC is the largest container shipping line on Earth. Sit with that. The company that owns the ship can also sit on the company that owns the terminal the ship berths at. It sets a freight rate at sea and stands at the gate on land. Look at Apapa and you see the same shape. APM Terminals belongs to the AP Moller Group, the same house as Maersk, another of the biggest shipping lines in the world. Now the newest gate, Lekki Deep Sea Port. It is operated by a special purpose vehicle called Lekki Port LFTZ Enterprise Limited on a 45-year concession. Its shareholders are on the record. China Harbour Engineering Company, 52.5%. Tolaram, the Singapore Group, 22.5%. Lagos State, 20%. And the Federal Government of Nigeria, through the Nigerian Ports Authority, 5%. 5% in the country's own deepest port. And the two private shareholders do not hold their shares directly. They hold them through a holding company registered outside Nigeria called Lekki Port Investment Holdings Incorporated. How was it built? China Development Bank signed a $629 million facility in October 2019. China Harbour put in another $221 million of equity in 2020 and became the controlling shareholder. The Chinese state-owned contractor built it, financed it, and now leads the company that runs it. And the port sits inside a free zone with its own tax and duty arrangements. Head east and the shape changes again. At Onne, the dominant name for decades has been Intels, co-founded by Gabriele Volpi, an Italian-Nigerian businessman, and by Atiku Abubakar, who was Vice President of Nigeria from 1999 to 2007. Now look at the record, and only the record. During those same years, the Vice President chaired the National Council on Privatisation, the body sitting above the Bureau of Public Enterprises, the same bureau that confirmed the port leases. In September 2017, the Attorney General wrote to the Ports Authority directing it to void an agreement that had allowed Intels to receive pilotage revenue on the state's behalf for 17 years, on the grounds that it conflicted with the Treasury single account. The contract was terminated. Between late 2018 and 2021, the former vice president sold down his shares. His defenders make a serious argument, and it belongs in this file too. They say privatization decisions were institutional, not personal, run by the Bureau through competitive bidding, with transaction advisors and auditors. They point out that a former Bureau chief testified he was, at times, bypassed entirely. I am not telling you he did something. I am telling you what the paperwork shows and letting you weigh it. So now we had the owners, Danish, Swiss-Italian, French, Chinese, Singaporean, and a Nigerian state holding 5% of its own newest gate. I thought that was the ending. Then somebody told me to check the dates on the leases. The original terminal leases ran 10 years from 2006. In 2016, the government granted a 5-year extension. That extension ran out in 2021. It was then extended again for 6 months. and again for another 6 months, and the renewal never properly closed. In March 2024, the House of Representatives summoned the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, the Ports Authority, the Bureau of Public Enterprises, and the concession regulator over what its own committee described as expired concession agreements with unlicensed terminal operators. In April 2026, the Ports Authority was still explaining the delay. Read that again slowly. The gates through which almost everything Nigeria eats, drinks, drives, and swallows must pass have been operated for 5 years on paper that ran out. And in all those 5 years, did one single charge stop? Did demurrage pause? Did terminal handling take a break? Did anybody get a refund because the lease had expired? No. The meter never stopped. That is the whole system in one sentence. The paperwork can expire, the collection never does, and the money is not small. Customs collected 3.21 trillion naira in 2023, 6.11 trillion in 2024, 7.28 trillion in 2025. The target for 2026 is 11.27 trillion. Every naira of that is added on top of goods before you ever see them on a shelf. But not everybody pays. In 2025 alone, Customs disclosed that imports worth about 34.5 trillion naira came in under concessions and exemptions. Over half of it petroleum. Around 40% military imports. So the market woman importing one container of slippers pays duty, VAT, surcharge, inspection fee, storage, demurrage, call-up, and 17 checkpoints. And 34 trillion naira of other people's cargo walks through the same gate on a waiver. There is one more thing, and it is the quietest part of all. Almost all of those port charges are billed in dollars, inside Nigeria, between Nigerian companies. One Nigerian shipping operator moved 29 containers between Nigerian ports, charged its customers in naira, and was billed nearly $40,000 in port charges. That is why the gate and the naira are the same story. Every container that lands creates demand for dollars inside Nigeria. When the naira falls, the charge does not fall with it. It rises in naira terms automatically without any minister signing anything. Your bread gets more expensive because of an exchange rate applied at a fence you have never been allowed to enter. So who controls Nigeria's gate? Not one man, not one party. A landlord that owns the land but only 5% of the newest port. Terminal companies running on expired leases. Shipping lines that own the ships and sit on the terminals. A Chinese state contractor that financed, built, and now controls the deepest berth in West Africa. A free zone with its own rules, and a 100-year-old railway decision nobody alive ever voted for. The port is not a building. The port is a toll booth on the only road into the country. And the people who built the road decided, a long time ago, that there would only be one. We were never just paying for the goods. We were paying for the entire system behind the gate. If you are a trader, a clearing agent, a truck driver, a manufacturer in Onitsha, in Aba, in Nnewi, in Kano, in Maiduguri, you have paid this bill personally. Tell me your number in the comments. What did one container cost you this year? That is data nobody in Abuja is collecting. Subscribe, because the next file is already open. We followed the container to the gate. Next, we follow the fuel. Who really owns the tanks Nigeria's petrol sits in before it reaches your street? The truth is in the transactions. Follow the money. You are watching Historic Capital. Power is not given, power is taken.